Marcus Lamb wasn't perfect, not as a man, a pastor, a businessman, or even as a husband. For 7 years, Marcus was secretly dating a married woman until he got caught. And when the truth came out, instead of owning up to it, he tried to flip the narrative. I still remember watching him go on TV, acting like the real issue wasn't the fact that he cheated for years, but that someone was trying to blackmail him for $7.5 million of God's money.
The couple says 3 people threatened to go public with the affair if the ministry didn't pay them $7.5 million.
Let's talk about the extortion first. Can you tell us when you were first approached and how you were approached? Did you get a phone call? Was it an email, a letter? How?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, the information came to us. They were trying to turn our pain into their gain. So we were both shocked and outraged that they would demand this much of God's money.
Lamb is feeding to these media outlets, including Good Morning America and Ms. Roberts. Oh, they're trying to extort me. They're extorting me, all right. So Robert says, let's talk about the extortion. She's going with his narrative. Oh, she's a journalist, all right. Can you tell us when you were first approached and how you were approached? Now, please listen very closely. Did you get a phone call? Was it in an email, a letter? How? In other words, Marcus, how did you find out that these people are trying to extort you? Email, phone call, letter, how? Marcus Lamb dodged the question.
Tell us when you were first approached and how you were approached. Did you get a phone call? Was it an email, a letter? How?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, the information came to us.
Evidently, he did not want the viewers to, and I'm just reading from the lawsuit that alleges what I'm entertainment opinion looking at, viewers to learn that the supposed extortion took place in a meeting with 2 of Daystar's lawyers in their office, and that the person communicating the supposed threat was not the 3 supposed extortionists, but a licensed attorney with 29 years of experience and a spotless record. Instead of answering the question, Marcus Lamb said, well, a couple of weeks ago, the information came to us that these 3 people were demanding $7.5 million in order to keep from going to the media. This, I'm reading from the lawsuit that alleges these things that I'm opining about for entertainment purposes. The statement was false and defamatory. Segment concluded with Miss Roberts asking, and Marcus, a final question about the extortion case. She's full blown, and why wouldn't they? This was really pretty smart on the part of Marcus and Joni, because, all right, it's finally going to come out what they've been covering up, and they're going to have to deal with it one way or another, but they want to spin it in a way that is to their advantage. And so they concoct it. This is my opinion, entertainment. So they concoct this way of dealing with it. And of course, the secular media is going to pick up what the secular media loves. A Christian in sin story. They love that. So of course, they're going to give it to them. And then they're spoon feeding the narrative that they want them to go for. And I'm sorry, maybe they paid this Ms. Roberts off and the network off, or maybe she just fell for all of that. But anyway, obviously, he had led her to believe that the identities and location of the 3 supposed extortionists were unknown and that a manhunt was underway. See, Marcus Lamb is making them think these 3 people are out there somewhere and they're trying to extort us. Nobody knows who they are, but we're going to find them. I called the law. I called the sheriff. I called the sheriff of Boone County, and he's coming down and he's going to. But that was a lie. He knew exactly who they were. He knew exactly who these individuals were and why they had gotten in contact. And it wasn't to extort. It was to have things made right after they had been wronged. He knew who they were, and he knew who their attorney was because the attorney had met with them on their premises.
Marcus Lamb claimed that 3 people tried to extort $7.5 million from him and Daystar, but when you really look at the details, that doesn't seem to be the case at all. What actually happened? Well, 3 former employees filed a lawsuit against Daystar, and when you dig into the specifics, especially the story of the second plaintiff, it's hard not to question Marcus's version of events. This woman worked for Daystar from 2002 until she was fired in 2010. She was the producer of The Joni Show and worked closely with Joni Lamb the entire time. So what got her fired? Was it poor performance? Breaking company rules? Nope. She was fired because she dated another employee. That's it. And while she was berated, belittled, and ultimately fired by Joni Lamb for the relationship, the male employee she dated faced no consequences. No demotion, no firing, nothing. How is that fair? Here's what the court document says. She was the producer of The Joni Show, a production starring Joni Lamb. Throughout her employment, plaintiff worked closely with Joni Lamb, who was her direct supervisor the entire time she was employed by Daystar. During the course of plaintiff's employment, plaintiff began to date a male employee of Daystar. The relationship was not prohibited by any policy of Daystar. On January 11th, 2010, Joni Lamb instructed plaintiff to terminate her relationship with the other employee. For approximately 2 hours, allegedly, Joni Lamb berated, belittled, and harassed plaintiff. Joni Lamb told plaintiff that she had shamed both Daystar and Joni Lamb, called plaintiff a liar and a bad example, and told plaintiff she was unhealthy. Joni Lamb also asked the plaintiff explicit and inappropriate questions about her relationship with the other employee. No one at Daystar made any such demand of the male employee whom the plaintiff was dating. Now, Daystar deliberately humiliated the plaintiff. She was subject to numerous instances of verbal abuse and insults, some of which were directly related to her gender. On March 10th, 2010, plaintiff was fired without lawful excuse. The male employee whom plaintiff had been dating was neither demoted nor terminated as a result of his relationship with plaintiff. If you're an attorney and your client has been treated like that, fired for dating someone while the other person walks away unaffected, you're going to take action. This wasn't extortion. It was someone standing up for themselves after being treated unfairly. And let's be real, if Marcus Lamb's own personal life was messy, with multiple sources saying he had an affair for 6 or 7 years, it's not surprising that this would come up during a legal case. It's not blackmail. It's background information that any good lawyer would dig up to show a pattern of unfair treatment. Think about it. How can you fire someone for dating a coworker when the person running the whole network was allegedly having a long-term affair? That double standard is glaring. Marcus wasn't just facing a lawsuit because people wanted money. He was facing it because people were mistreated, and the hypocrisy was too big to ignore.
They were trying to turn our pain into their gain. So we were both shocked and outraged that they would demand this much of God's money.
But let's be honest, whose money was it really? The same $7.5 million of God's money he was using to fly off on trips with his mistress. The same ministry funds that paid for fancy hotels, lavish getaways, and private moments where he indulged in his sinful desires. The same offerings from churchgoers who thought they were supporting a Christian network, not funding an affair. Marcus lived a double life while preaching about faithfulness and righteousness. And when it all came crashing down, he played the victim.
Why did you never come forward with this before this alleged extortion attempt?
Well, Joni and I wanted to have plenty of time to heal. We wanted to have a track record of living right and doing right. Plus our children were young, and we wanted to spare them the pain of this until they could at least be old enough to be able to handle it better.
How'd you find out?
There was an individual that cared about me and cared about him that had some information where they believed that this could be going on, and they came to me and shared the information with me, and I confronted him the same day.
And you knew this woman?
Yes.
Most married women know when their husband is cheating, and for someone as inquisitive and power-hungry as Joni Lamb, I find it hard to believe that she didn't know about Marcus's affair for 7 years. But let's be real, what could she do about it? When you're living the televangelist celebrity lifestyle, You can't just walk away. Joni wasn't just Marcus's wife, she was his business partner, his co-host, and the other half of the perfect image they sold to millions. Daystar's entire brand was built on the power couple narrative. Their success depended on their marriage looking rock solid. Their lavish lifestyle, mansions, private jets, million-dollar salaries was all funded by keeping up appearances. So Joni did what she had to do. She stayed silent. She kept smiling on TV, holding hands with Marcus, pretending everything was fine. Because in their world, the reputation of Daystar mattered more than the truth. Joni and Marcus were a perfect match because they were both willing to protect Daystar at all costs, even if it meant lying to their audience, covering up scandals, and keeping up a carefully crafted illusion. So, Joni Lamb endured years of Marcus's affair, and not only that, she had to sit beside him on TV, smiling, praying, and pretending everything was fine, all to protect Daystar's image. That had to hurt. She had to watch him get caught, had to defend him publicly, and had to stand by him while the world questioned their marriage. And even though it must have been humiliating, she stayed. But now, she's finally getting her payback. Her revenge, Doug Weiss. Doug wasn't just some random man who showed up after Marcus died. He already knew everything. Doug Weiss had firsthand information about Marcus's affair. Doug was Joni's emotional support while she dealt with the betrayal. Doug saw every detail of how Marcus failed as a husband. And now, Doug gets to make sarcastic, mocking remarks about Marcus, and Joni just sits there, letting it happen.
Rachel did say that I did tell her I would ask you in this meeting. She said that when y'all went to the Easter service, I don't know where it happened, but she said that you said to Joni offered you Marcus's necktie, and you said to Joni, I've taken everything else that man has, I don't want his tie. And y'all started laughing, but it's like a...
What did you say? I don't want the tie. I don't want anything from you. I don't want your inheritance. It's kind of the heart of that.
No, I understand, but when you're saying I've taken everything else that man has,
He's just a joke. He's talking about me.
I figured you were talking about you.
You didn't have to have a tie. He was talking about me.
You know, when I first heard Doug Weiss's statement, it honestly hit me the wrong way. Like, how do you even say something like that and not realize how messed up it sounds? Whether he meant it as a joke or not, there's a deeper truth in those words that just feels off. Think about it. Doug married Joni Lamb, who was Marcus Lamb's wife. He's now co-hosting TV shows with her, something Marcus used to do. He's basically stepped into Marcus's role, both in Joni's life and on Daystar. And instead of handling that with a little humility and respect, he made a joke about it that's wild.
There's people fly from all over the country for the last 30 years. And I sat with marriages, thousands, 5,000 marriages. And there's some that die right there in my office. They die right there. Okay? Because it can't be done. It can't always be done. God doesn't always raise the dead.
Me too.
God doesn't always heal. God doesn't
I
always
believe
heal
that.
somebody. God didn't heal your dad.
It's
God doesn't always super...
Doug Weiss's comment about God not healing Marcus Lamb felt incredibly insensitive to me. Yes, it's true that God doesn't always heal or raise the dead, but to use Marcus Lamb as an example in such a personal setting, that crosses a line. Saying God didn't heal your dad in front of people grieving Marcus's death feels harsh and unnecessary. It lacks compassion, especially when addressing Marcus's family and loved ones. In my opinion, even if the point was to emphasize that not all prayers are answered in the way we hope, there are more thoughtful ways to say it without directly referencing someone's late father in such a blunt manner.